When God of War was released in March 2005 for the PS2, people had interest in speedrunning the game almost immediately. Only a week after the game came out, a thread would be created on the speedrun-focused website Speed Demos Archive.
I immediately saw something that I remembered. Why can't I go back? I still remember in the first God of War, I think it was the first God of War, right? Where you do the triggers to fuck, right? So you're in the bed and you do the 2 triggers and you speed up, slow down, whatever. I think it was the first one. That shit blew my mind as a kid. That in Dead to Rights, where you had the stripper minigame. Bro, those 2 fucking... I guess they're minigames. Really blew my mind. I couldn't believe something like that could exist. Thanks to the resub Dick, Speed Razor, and the Tier 1 Amba, Tier 1 Angel, and the Prime Icky, and the 10 gift subs Damp. Appreciate it, man. Thank you, Damp, and Speed Razor. I also love seeing these old forums. Looks like I wasn't the only one that was really just blown away by it.
A thread would be created on the speedrun-focused website Speed Demos Archive. Multiple users on the forum showed interest in creating a full segmented speedrun of the game. God of War, however, posed a severe challenge to anyone wanting to speedrun it. The game can be extremely challenging, and tactics for getting through the game easier were not exactly developed.
All hack and slash games back in the day
from the
were.
game's inception in 2005, a small handful of players took on the challenge of speedrunning this brutal game. Runs would be performed that showcased impressive strategies, glitches, and shortcuts that beat the game faster than ever before. In the early years of God of War speedrunning, one run stood out. That came from a player.
Yeah, I've been holding off on this one. I've been really interested.
A person who had such a profound impact on the way the game would be played for many years to come. Welcome to episode 3 of this series. Today, we're gonna take a look at the man who broke God of War in half. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Is there some airship?
Man, how'd I end up in rotten sewer? This place stinks. Hey Slim, why don't you just change your location? Easy for you to say. I'm stuck down here. Well, it's easy.
Tier 1
just use NordVPN. With NordVPN, you can change your location to anywhere you want. This is useful if specific songs, movies, or other things only show in certain countries.
How did he break in half?
Really
I don't know, about to find out.
My own research, but also for personal enjoyment, since sometimes underground songs don't always like showing up on YouTube for me. If you're interested in the service and want to show support to the channel, you can use the link that's on screen right now or in the description to begin your 2-year plan. Start using NordVPN today by heading on over to nordvpn.com/ThaRixer. If you're unhappy with your purchase, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee that has you covered. Again, that's nordvpn.com/ThaRixer.
Thanks to Resub Eternal and the Bits Disgruntled.
If you haven't played the original God of War, or if it's been a while, allow me to briefly show you the game's level order, so you're up to speed. Kratos' goal is to acquire Pandora's Box, an artifact that allegedly has the power to slay a god, which he plans to use against Ares, the god of war. To acquire Pandora's Box, Kratos has a long journey ahead of him. You start in the Aegean Sea, where you take down the Big Hydra. You then make your way through the city.
Man, I can't wait to replay this series.
At the Temple of the Oracle.
It's gonna be so fucking nostalgic.
You then traverse the Athens sewers and enter the Desert of Lost Souls, where you find Kronos, the Titan, who has Pandora's temple fixated on his back. The majority of the game takes place inside of the temple, and within it, Kratos is faced with 3 trap-filled gauntlets:
and they give some schmaltzy.
Challenge of Atlas, Challenge of Poseidon, and Challenge of Hades. Once cleared, you proceed to the Cliffs of Madness. At the end of the cliffs, you get to the Architect's tomb and acquire Pandora's Box. Ares, the god of war, then lunges a pillar all the way from Athens to the temple, impaling Kratos, sending him to the underworld.
Appreciate it,
you then fight your way through Hades and climb the giant rope at the end, so you can literally climb your way out of hell. You arrive at the ruined temple of the Oracle, and finally face off against Ares. Upon his defeat, you sit on the throne as the new god of war, and that's the game. Now, I made that all sound fairly quick, but God of War can be a pretty long game due to its difficulty and large areas you have to traverse. The first person who decided to record their speedrun of God of War would be Prism, who got a segmented time of 2:49:51, using the in-game timer.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a God of War marathon when Ragnarok gets a release date.
Prism released his run on October 1st, 2005, only half a year after the game came out. His run was a decent showing for the time.
The quality's really good for 2005.
A casual playthrough with no notable skips or shortcuts. Regardless, not bad, considering the game was in its infancy. Another runner by the name of Ball of Snow would do his own segmented speedrun in 2006, and improve on Prism's time with a 2:16:23. Ball of Snow also played the game on God
There's
mode,
the prime
and
red.
completed his run in 20 segments as opposed to Prism's 17. Ball of Snow's time save came from cleaning up most of the sloppiness of Prism's run, and also through a sequence break in Challenge of Hades that saved around 6 minutes.
Oh, hey, the first glitch.
The run
Let's
got
go.
a lot of positive feedback, and was generally viewed in high regard. The run still persists on Speed Demo's archive and archive.org, where someone
gift subs
was
Pit,
so impressed by the
Prime
run,
Reality.
they decided to give it a review and a 5-star rating. The reviewer's name was God Mode God, and was a God of War player who mainly focused on challenge runs
a
and
pretty
no
cool
upgrade
name.
runs. He was rather impressed with Ball of Snow's speedy tactics, and how the various fights in the game were handled expertly. Entering the year 2007, God Mode God would create a speedrun-focused thread over at GameSpot on a forum called the Ultimate God of War Union, where players would share their accomplishments and tactics for God of War 1 and 2. God
I
Mode
miss
God
game
was
forums.
sort of the figurehead of the scene at
Holy
the time.
shit. 6,641 posts. This was in 2007, right? So in 4 years, he made 6,600 posts. God damn. But that was like the entire atmosphere back then, to be fair. I remember, what was the old G4 one where they used to do game reviews? Game trailers. GameTrailers.com. Game Trailers had a really active forum community. Like every second there was a new post being made, or a new entire thread being started. That shit got wild back in the day. And of course there was game facts and all of that, but I remember game trailers fondly as well. People were wild on there.
Going under the name The Creeper on the forums, he was one of the main people establishing proper rule sets, listing times, posting strategies, and welcoming newcomers. The
Is it tier
forum
one, Pit?
was
Let me
rather
give
small,
sub Zach and
and
the
didn't
resub fat
contain many
guy.
members, but the community
And yeah,
was
I played that
tight-knit,
game,
with a shared interest for a classic
Jacob?
PS2 franchise. But one night, a new user
The resub
joined the
Mihai?
forum, and he went by Satvara. The entry post from this new user went as follows. Speedruns. It's good I found this board. I've done some speedrunning myself. I started playing God of War 1 2 or 3 months ago, and after I had unlocked everything,
There's a
I
Prime
decided
Pudgy
to
and the
personally
resub
challenge
Artie.
myself to a time attack. I played under New Game/Hero settings, and reached the final save in 1:21:41.
Fucking liar.
It wasn't perfect or anything, and I probably should have spent more time with it. Additionally, some of the videos linked here had some intriguing and useful strategies I didn't use.
Thanks, Prime
Nevertheless,
Coffee.
I'm still satisfied with my time overall. Yeah, who wouldn't be with a time like that? This Satvara person is claiming a time 55 minutes faster than Ball of Snow's 2:16. Now, of course, there was no video to go along with this claim, so forum users were, perhaps, a bit skeptical. After all, Satvara was new to the forums, and had no credibility. God Mode God welcomed Satvara to the forum, and upon seeing his
As you said,
supposed
Clammy.
time of 1:21, his reaction was, not bad, not really knowing what to say to such a suspicious claim. On the internet, anybody can technically claim whatever they want. At this point, speedrunners are all too familiar with various YouTube comments of people claiming outlandish times. It was hard to tell whether Satvara was
Is the resub
legit,
heat?
or just some random troll looking to cause a stir. Satvara also said in his initial post that his
The
run
resub
was
feudal.
missing a couple of strategies he didn't know about. God Mode God and another user, Mystery Man, then started guessing time estimates.
Man, I miss
of
these
how
old
low
kinda
the time could
names.
go had he used those strategies he said he was
Mystery
missing.
Man.
Now, keep in mind, these two users didn't even know what strategies would have taken place for a 1:21, let alone even lower than that.
Thanks, resub
This,
McButter.
of course, annoyed Satvara, and tensions would begin to rise on the forum. Allow me to reenact Satvara's response to these posts in dramatic fashion. I think it's time I laid my cards out on the table. I can't
Oh,
help but
so he's like
laugh
an
at the
anime
fact that
villain.
You guys are making time estimates based on a time you know nothing about. A 1:21 is impossible, and both of you have really no idea how impossible it is. You could try and try, but you would never come close. At least with what you know. God Mode God would respond. Should have just done what I intended in my last post, which is to mention how perfectly Ball of Snow did God Mode.
It doesn't matter how good you aren't doing much better even on Hero.
Thanks to the
I
bits,
try not
Coil.
to immediately shoot down newcomers anymore, as I often would if they made such claims. I even let you buy without asking for proof and the like, which is unlike me. You got lucky.
Is it? You really should have, because your not bad comment almost made me think you were an idiot. I seriously contemplating never coming back here and perhaps going somewhere else.
God, this is
But
quite
I think
the
I'll be sticking
showdown.
around now
Jesus.
And get that SDA run out of your head. You won't be needing it anymore.
We'll see soon enough.
Don't forget, however, that I'm here to give back, and it's only because I admire what you're trying to build here. If you so will it, we'll move forward together. If not, so be it.
You don't want to
Enough
lose
talk.
him.
The discussion would continue like this into the night, and by now, other users of the forum were also beginning to believe that Sadvara's claim was fraudulent. What was with all the talk? Where was the proof? I mean, sure.
I miss
This was
2007.
all just one big bluff,
Same.
right?
God, these internet forum arguments were amazing.
After a few days of silence from Sadvara, he would return back to the forum, delivering the goods. The videos to his run were posted, slowly but surely, part by part. This is when everyone started to realize the genius that is Sadvara.
Oh!
Not only was his claim of 121 legit, the glitches and strategies
What?
used to get the time were all discovered independently.
The Redditor
No
backed it
prior
up.
reference, such as the runs from Prism or Ball of Snow, was ever used. Satvara, in 2007, had virtually cracked God of War open, all in complete isolation.
God damn. He is the chosen one. And the quality's so good. What the fuck? Like, even the videos I made back in 2011 had shittier quality than this. Because I was still using, like, a hap hog. What was, like, Satvara using? Holy lord. Man was using, like, a black magic camera. God damn. Oh, this is comparison footage using remastered runs. No, that wouldn't make any sense. If the runs still exist, like if the footage is still there, he'd probably just elect to use the real footage, wouldn't he? Well, you're in the chat, Rix, right? Yeah, I thought so. No, it's not. This is all Satvara's run using VCR. That's crazy.
The run was absolutely astounding. Satvara had completely flipped the game on its head, all by himself, and several forum users went from skeptical to
Where's God
extremely
mode
impressed
God?
very quickly.
Looking
But
real dumb
what
right about
was it
now.
that Satvara was doing over runners prior that put his time in a league of his own? Let's take a deeper
Extra
look at
shooter,
Satvara's
Kali,
121
dumb,
to
less
see where
like
he
you, and
managed to
regular.
save so much time. Most runners in the early days of God of War speedrunning insisted on playing on God mode, since it was viewed as the most skillful way to play through the game.
Lame.
But difficulty practically didn't matter after Satvara's run, as he found one of, if not, the most impactful glitch in the entire game. The infinite regenerating magic glitch. Not too long after you arrive in Athens, you have to engage in a tutorial fight against a Medusa. Upon defeating it, you acquire Medusa's Gaze, a magic spell you can cast to stone enemies. The game wants you to try the spell out on some Minotaur enemies, but for the purpose of the tutorial, you are granted infinitely regenerating magic to try the spell out as much as you'd like. Instead of defeating the enemies, Satvara makes his way to a spot where he can clip out of bounds.
That's
And after
genius.
some crafty seam walking and tricky jumps, Satvara escapes the tutorial room. The game still assumes Kratos to be in the tutorial fight, and thus, you now have infinitely regenerating magic for the rest of the game.
Bro, Satvara's a
It didn't
fucking
matter
genius.
much whether Satvara was on hero or god mode, otherwise difficult fights became trivial. Magic took care of everything. There was also no need to gather Phoenix feathers to increase your magic meter, something that both Prism and Ball of Snow had to do all over the game.
I want to see what God
This
Mode
is by
God
far
said to
one of
this.
the most groundbreaking glitches in the history of the game, saving time virtually everywhere in the run. Satvara had discovered two big movement techniques that he used throughout his run to reach higher and further places. A standard high jump was already a known discovery in 2006, but ThaRixer had found an improved version using Poseidon's Rage in the air to reach higher places in multiple spots. One of the places where this saved the most amount of time was in Cliffs of Madness. Normally, you need to acquire 2 necklaces to extend a bridge fully to make it across. ThaRixer, however, only got 1 necklace to extend the
Man,
bridge
and to think
its
God
minimum.
mode God almost scared him
He
away.
then used a Poseidon's Rage high jump to make it to the upper area, jumped across, and used another Poseidon's Rage high jump to make it to the other side, skipping the second necklace and saving over 8 minutes in total.
Ooh.
The other movement technique ThaRixer had discovered was a way to extend Kratos' jump to gain further distance by swinging the Blades of Chaos in midair. At Athens Town Square, ThaRixer used this technique to reach the bridge in the middle of the plaza early. This jump might not look like much, until you realize that this entirely skips the level Rooftops of Athens, and it also skips the collection of the magic Zeus's Fury, saving over 11 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
The same long jump technique was used in Challenge of Atlas to skip an underground section where you have to fight a bunch of enemies on a rope. ThaRixer
Man,
simply did a
sometimes
long
the
jump
villain
from a
is
certain
just
height of the
extremely
rope and
talented.
ascended into the cave and collected the shield of
This guy
Hades
did all
early.
of this on his
This
own.
saved almost 2
No
minutes.
collaboration.
The forced fight thereafter was quickly taken care of.
Coming
with
home every
Infinite
day
Magic,
after school,
Poseidon's Rage level
Just
2,
grinding some
and
God of War
combos.
glitches alone.
In order to proceed,
Not even
further with the
recording it
Challenge of
either.
Atlas, a second shield
Till
is
he was
needed
forced to
for
by
further
God mode
progression.
God.
And ThaRixer had found a big shortcut for this one too. A Poseidon's Rage high jump was sufficient in reaching the ledge where the second shield is located, saving another minute and a half over the game's intended path.
Exit Prime Pod.
Right after
Cairo
obtaining
and
the
the
infinite
resub
magic,
seizure.
you are required to climb a set of walls
I'm doing alright,
infested with
BRD,
enemies
hope you're doing well.
until you reach a statue you need to push over. ThaRixer was able to skip the walls entirely with some crafty double jumps to reach the statue before intended. A quick 20-second save. When you first set foot in Challenge of Hades, you have to fight a bunch of centaurs to open a door to a maze. You then enter
Why does
the
that make
maze
him a
where
villain?
you're
Just the
required
way
to
he was
defeat all of the
talking.
enemies to open the final
I
door
thought you
to the
perhaps
run.
an idiot.
This is
I
effectively
contemplated
what
never
Prison
coming
did with his
back.
run, but the previously mentioned sequence break
just
that
the way he
Ball
was
of Snow had
talking.
used was a way of clipping through the top of the maze due to some dodgy collision, saving over 6 minutes on Prism. ThaRixer, however, had found an even better way all on his own that skipped both fighting the centaurs and entering the maze. A standard high jump was enough to ledge grab the platform where the button at the end of the maze was located. Easy money for an additional 3 minutes. To top it all off, ThaRixer managed to skip a ton of forced fights by finding clever
Easy
ways
tier
of
one,
getting around
Zach.
the fight triggers. The introductory fight against the satyrs in Cliffs of Madness was skipped with a Poseidon's Rage high jump. Also in Cliffs of Madness, a fight inside of a cave was bypassed with a long jump. The infamous conveyor
Use a
belt
broom.
fight against the harpies in the Architect's Tomb was
Oh,
skipped
I remember
by
this
hugging
one.
the corner of the room and avoiding the fight trigger. This skip was actually already found by someone else in 2006, but ThaRixer had also found it by himself. Finally, a big clash against some Cyclops and Minotaurs in the ruined Temple of the Oracle
Exit Prime
was
Nathan.
avoided by just barely jumping over the fight trigger. All of these aforementioned fights would otherwise take a minute or two each, so ThaRixer gained some hefty time throughout the run from avoiding them.
This is really impressive considering he did it all by himself in
As
complete
ThaRixer rolled
isolation.
his way through Mount Olympus, he had finished his segmented run. The time at the final save point was truthful to his original post. 1:21:41, done in August 2007. If there was any doubts as to whether or not ThaRixer's run was actually done in isolation, there are a very few select instances where Ball of Snow's run actually has superior strategies. Strategies ThaRixer could have utilized had he chosen to look up the run.
Exit Prime.
The
or
two
the
notable
resub
points
Wolf
where
Boy.
ThaRixer's run is worse is in the Aegean Sea when fighting the Hydra, and using Rage of the Gods against a group of archers in Cliffs of Madness when Army of Hades was the better choice. Despite these tiny flaws, the run completely shattered expectations. People on the Ultimate God of War Union forum were floored
Yeah,
as to how
true,
ThaRixer
Neil.
was able to dismantle
True.
the game in so many different ways, all on his own.
Here we go.
God Mode God still did not approve of ThaRixer's behavior coming into the
Oh,
forum,
bah
but decided to
humbug.
give credit where credit is due. His run was a marvel. ThaRixer's reasoning behind showing the run to the Ultimate God of War Union rather than Speed Demo's archive was a matter of acceptance. ThaRixer notably did
I wanted to read that post actually. Oh wait, this is just the top post. Oh, I thought this was ThaRixer.
rather than Speed Demo's archive was a matter of
There's some
acceptance.
innocence in the
ThaRixer
sublong.
notably did not submit his run to SDA for a couple of reasons. SDA did not allow out-of-bounds glitches back in 2007.
What?
And while Kratos technically never leaves the intended game area in his 121, ThaRixer envisioned a long and drawn-out
That's so boring.
discussion about what was and wasn't out of bounds. ThaRixer sensed that the moderation team over at SDA simply did not know God of War to the extent he did, so he didn't bother submitting. The infinite regenerating magic glitch was also seen as an exploit so huge a separate category was in the discussion on the forums if a submission was to happen. ThaRixer felt that SDA's rule set was hindering the game from its potential.
And ThaRixer was right.
Glitches and sequence breaks were both valid in beating the game as quickly as possible. A foreshadowing to the way we view speedrunning today.
Goddamn
with
right.
glitches
This
being
guy
one
is
of
a
the main draws
pioneer.
for the culture as a whole. The
Wait,
ultimate
was that
God of
Ape
War
Escape
union,
on the top right?
with glitches being one of the main draws for the culture as a whole.
Wait, that glitch looks amazing. Does Ape Escape have a cool speedrun?
Did not allow
Oh, it's kind of long. 45 minutes seems to be the record, or 44. Oh, wait, no. I don't know. Still 40 minutes is kind of long for me. Ape Escape is quite good for speedrunning. Maybe I'll talk about it sometime. Awesome. Well, I'll be watching if you do.
The Ultimate God of War Union seemed more in line with this way of thinking, which is why he chose to reveal his run over there. Overall though, ThaRixer was happy enough with the result of 121, and eventually shifted his focus more towards glitching and sequence breaking following the completion of
Thanks
his
to
run.
Prime Dope.
ThaRixer was not done just yet. In late 2007 and 2008, ThaRixer went on what I can only describe as a killing spree when it came to God of War glitches.
Oh, the quality really decreased during this time. He must have lost the VCR recording capability.
After his groundbreaking performance, ThaRixer still felt that the game had more room for breakthroughs. I apologize for the upcoming 2008 video quality, but it wouldn't be an authentic speedrun documentary without it,
True.
if you ask me. One of his first
Oh.
major discoveries
I guess not to spoil the surprise, Rix, is the reason why the quality was so shitty is because YouTube compression back then. I remember that actually being a thing. When you used to upload videos on YouTube of like old VCR quality shit, it would absolutely butcher it. Is that why it looks like utter ass there? Thanks to resub Cool Cat. Thanks to give sub Raven. Because his like direct link run was good. Oh, gotcha, Rix. Okay. So that wasn't it. Okay, that makes sense.
was a way to skip the desert
Thanks to
sirens
the
in the
Prime
Desert of
Bez,
Lost Souls.
Pounder,
Athena
and the
demands
resub
that you
Chucky.
hunt down the 3 sirens that are roaming the desert in order to proceed through a small ruined temple. ThaRixer had figured out a way to get into the temple early by using the move Hermes Rush in the air to clip through some collision on a wall, completely skipping killing the desert sirens, saving around 2 minutes. ThaRixer's Gates of Athens skip was now further extended with a crazy looking out of bounds to save even more time. More minutes were gained here due to skipping knocking over
You know
the
what blows my mind? This used to be normal quality for YouTube. Like, this is what we all used to watch YouTube on back in like 2007, 2008. This is what every video looked like, and no one complained. It's like, damn, this is I can tell what's happening. Now my eyes don't even know what the fuck I'm processing. Like, it just looks like an absolute mess of a fever dream here, like a kaleidoscope. I feel like over time our eyes have changed. The way we process images has changed. We have it too good now. 480p was pog. 480p was mind-blowing. I remember with Gears of War montages, you'd have to separate it by... most people would separate it in the title for low quality and high quality. Low quality was, I think, 240 max, and high quality was 480. And people lost their mind over those 480 montages.
statue and the handful of fights that followed straight afterwards. When you first reach Pandora's temple, you must speak with a gatekeeper that can open the entrance for Kratos. You then fight some big Cyclops enemies and proceed into the temple. Satvara was able to discover a way to skip both of these requirements by using a grounded Hermes rush to wedge himself between a chest and a wall. He then double jumped behind the gate to reach the stairs early, saving nearly 3 minutes.
God, this guy's so
This have
good.
garnered some attention within the mighty YouTube algorithm. Not bad for an old skip from 2008. One of Satvara's biggest contributions to
He's
the
a
game
Prime
around this
Bob.
time
The
was a
resub
huge sequence
Cubico
break
and
discovered in
Booty.
the very first level, the
Prime Creep, and they
AGMC.
give sub Eli.
In a casual playthrough, after you climb the ship's mast, you're intended to make your way over to a second ship by sliding along a rope. On this other ship is where you obtain Poseidon's Rage, fight the big Hydra, and get a key for your troubles. You're meant to use this key on a door to reach the end of the level, but Satvara had found a pretty ridiculous jump to skip the large detour. Watch and observe.
I can't tell what's happening, to be honest. Oh, I saw him get over the door
A
barrier.
massive leap from the ship's mast down to a very thin ledge below. If you're just too far left, you fall and die. And if you're just too far right, you'll clip back in bounds. Precision is the name of the game. Satvara then jumps along the out-of-bounds seam and jumps over the locked door. While this skip does save over 4 minutes, it wasn't utilized in speedruns for the sole reason that Poseidon's Rage was a necessary component in making skips later in the game possible. But I did mention this one for a reason. More on it later.
Yeah, they probably get rid of
After
the
breaking
need for even
Poseidon's trident
fighting.
free from its crystallized cage, Kratos must traverse a section underwater. An out-of-bounds through a small roof was discovered at some point in 2006, but the potential wasn't fully realized until Satvara gave it another look in February 2008. In a 3-minute long YouTube video, Satvara completed the entirety of this underwater section from out of bounds by figuring out where all the loading triggers are located.
Wow.
This discovery must have been both difficult and annoying to solve, mainly due to you having to keep Kratos out of bounds the whole time while constantly fighting the uncooperative camera. All in all, a bit over a minute and a half was gained here.
Next
In the Temple
Fox,
of the Oracle,
Mars, and Archie,
Kratos must
the Prime
save the
Salt.
Oracle from falling off a rope she's
Gives some
desperately clinging
Dextra.
onto for dear life. In brutal God of War fashion, we can leave her hanging by clipping through the door to the next section. Satvara once again used the aerial Hermes rush move in a very specific spot to get through to the other side, skipping the act of saving the Oracle and the 2-minute cutscene that follows. Valuable time save, but extremely difficult to pull off. The 2 shields that Satvara had to acquire in his run to open a door in Challenge of Atlas could now be skipped, and saved a huge amount of time. It was figured out that the Blade of Artemis could be used as a form of high jump, which proved useful in many spots. Satvara jumps onto a chest and holds triangle to perform an ascension. He then swings the Blade of Artemis and uses Poseidon's Rage in combination for more height. He's able to clip out of bounds and jump around the door that requires the 2 shields, saving nearly 5 minutes over his old run.
God, this guy's nuts.
As if that wasn't enough, Satvara found a better version of this skip a few months later that skipped to the very final door in Challenge of Atlas.
Is there some mini in
Inside
the
the
Prime
infamous
AO?
spike corridor in Pandora's Temple, you can clip out of bounds by hanging onto the side of one of the crushers. This requires a well-timed Poseidon's Rage high jump so that Kratos is able to grab the ledge of the crusher when it's visible. After clipping out of bounds, you have to navigate Kratos blindly on a thin stretch of floor, constantly in danger of falling down or accidentally clipping back in bounds. This is followed by another Poseidon's Rage high jump right through the floor of the exit tunnel of Challenge of Atlas. This way, you can go
This
through
seems
Challenge
hard.
of Atlas backwards to acquire the
This
Architect's
is still the
Son's
strats
head
they use.
without doing anything else in the level.
Is there some Twizzler?
When Kratos finally reaches Pandora's box, a 1-minute cutscene plays that informs him that he must bring the box back to Athens. Of course, Satvara found a way around this too. He simply went out of bounds using the Blade of Artemis and Poseidon's Rage in the room before the box. Seam walked on the outside of the room and free fell all the way down the shaft you're supposed to take the box through. After hitting the loading trigger at the bottom of the shaft, the game gives you Pandora's box despite never watching the cutscene. It seems that nothing was impossible for Satvara.
How low did he get the time
I
with
feel
all
like
these
I would be
skips, I
doing
wonder?
Satvara dirty if I didn't mention his God of War playthrough that skipped collecting all magics and the Blade of Artemis in late 2008. Some of the skips used for this playthrough I've already gone over. such as the Hydra 3 skip to bypass Poseidon's Rage, and a similar but improved out of bounds in the Medusa room to skip Medusa's Gaze. A puzzle later in Athens requires you to freeze a Minotaur onto a button
Thanks for your
with
sub, Lost Fire.
Medusa's Gaze, so Satvara had to find a way around this room to complete the playthrough. It's hard to tell from the video quality, but Satvara did manage to find a skip, by jumping over a pile of rubble outside of the puzzle room with the assistance of the attack Apollo's offensive, for more length to clear the wall. Zeus's Fury was skipped straight afterwards with the classic long jump we saw from earlier. The Blade of Artemis was skipped with an obscure trick known as gliding, performed by using Hermes' Rush into the wall and blocking to gain some rather strange momentum to effectively glide around the trigger that gives you the blade. Finally, Army of
Thanks to
Hades was
resub.
skipped with an out of bounds
Juke.
in the Pandora's Guardian room, followed by some seam walking to get around the trigger for the magic. The end of the video shows Kratos in Olympus with no magics or sub-weapons collected. A huge flex, yet seemingly another day in the office for Satvara. One final
Thanks for
discovery I'll
Prime
talk about
Cheeky.
for now is one I cannot believe was found in 2008. The difficulty on this skip is above anything I've mentioned prior. This is the Sacrifice Room, a room that saw some controversy
Prime
when
Halo.
the game came out. Kratos must bring a caged
Oh,
soldier
hey,
to the
thank you for
room,
the 10 gift subs,
then burn
Amaranth.
and sacrifice him to proceed.
Really appreciate that. Thanks
A
for the
skip
generosity.
for this room didn't really seem feasible, but as we know by now, nothing stands in the way
Hope you're doing
of
well.
Satvara. He uses the Blade of Artemis and Poseidon's Rage to first get out of bounds, to stand on a tiny seam outside of the level.
Yeah, this must have taken him literally hundreds of
More
hours
Blade of Artemis high
alone,
jumps are used to land further along the level.
since he didn't collaborate with anyone.
And then finally, one long string of high jumps to get under the sacrifice door, where Satvara barely makes it with his last jump before running out of magic. A few years later in
Thanks, Yusuf
2012,
Frank.
a new way of high jumping without Poseidon's Rage was discovered, now using Medusa's Gaze. This finally makes Satvara's old Hydra skip from years prior viable in single segment speedruns. With Poseidon's Rage completely out of the route, this would increase the difficulty of a few of the known sequence breaks, most notably Sacrifice Skip, a skip no one dared to use in single segment runs until
What a bunch of
2020,
pussies.
a whole 12 years after Satvara first discovered it. I mostly went over Satvara's bigger discoveries
Thanks
in
to the
this
gift
video,
sub Freeze
but
and Tier 1
honestly,
General Generous.
I'm kind of scraping the tip of the iceberg. If I truly went over everything, we'd be here for hours. Viewers on YouTube saw Satvara's videos as a spectacle. His glitch videos inspired other players to try their hand at breaking God of War.
Was he also
And
the
many
one that
great
found the
findings
like
would take
swimming
place
through
in
levels?
2008 and 2009.
I still think that's
not just from
incredible
Satvara.
glitches for speedruns.
Entering 2009, however,
Also, this guy that he just showed is who I was thinking of. Akion. Many of you probably don't remember this, but a long time ago I posted a video from Assassin's Creed, and it was showing off a glitch that I had learned from Akion. I've always been huge into glitches, so I always try and keep up. And there was a glitch in Assassin's Creed where you could sail the ship through land and like have it fly around and under the map and everything. It was super fucking cool, and I made a video on it. And I found the glitch and learned how to do it from Akion, and I think the other guy's name was Fiddlestick. I think. But yeah, if I remember correctly, Akion switched to Max Payne 3 speedrun glitches. I really just find all of it super fascinating. The Fiddlestick, yeah. I find it just super interesting how much time people dedicate to glitch hunting to push games to their fucking limit and break them entirely. I've always loved that, which is why I had my own glitching clan back in like 2008. Chaotic glitchers, baby. I really wish I didn't delete all those videos, man. Thanks to resub Austin in the Prime Sack.
Satvara. Entering 2009, however, Satvara's video uploads would become few and far between. In March 2009, he uploaded a video demonstrating a way to cancel the Hydra's energy regeneration with extremely precise grabs, something that other
Thanks to Tier 1
players could
Vivid.
not seem to get the hang of at the time, due to its difficulty. The description of the video suddenly announced that this would be his last God of War video. In the comments, Satvara said that he was done and didn't want anything to do with the game anymore. Many community members
The way Satvara talks is like he really watched a couple of anime and decided, I want to be the bad guy, just like in those shows. It's just like so matter-of-fact and abrasive. I am done with God of War and anything having to
He was
do
done
with it.
and didn't want
Realize
any-
this concept. Peasant. Like, Jesus Christ, man. People looked up to you. You were a hero.
Thing to do with the game anymore. Many community members at the time, such as Akion, Turyu, and God, were all sad to see Satvara go. He had done so much for the game, and his videos were nothing short of inspirational. As a result, the initial golden age of God of War sequence breaking
Aww.
would slowly fade out. Activity dwindled, and the game would have to wait for the second coming. Throughout the PS3's lifespan, the God of War games would see a handful of re-releases on the console, updating the graphics to HD and also porting over some of the PSP games that not everybody got to play.
I probably
One
won't play
would
those
think
when I
this would
marathon it.
reinvigorate some activity amongst the speedrun community, especially with a God of War 1 trophy that challenges you to beat the game in under 5 hours. There were a couple of segmented runs in 2011 and 2012 that were in the works from 2 new runners, but both of these never made it past the halfway point in the game. Someone
Cowards.
just needed to pick up the pieces to re-spark the activity in the scene. In August
So
2012,
did Satvara
the
have
God
the
of War
record the
Saga
entire
collection
time?
was released, which featured God of War 1, 2, 3, Chains of Olympus, and Ghost of Sparta. A pretty ambitious release, and a certain someone would get reeled back into playing the series. After seeing how deserted the God of War speedrunning scene had become, this certain someone felt the need
Better be
to
Satvara.
revive the activity. Despite claiming that he didn't want anything to do with the game,
Oh, that's Satvara.
God of War 1 still had so much left to uncover. When the game
Shows you
was at
some
its
zeal.
most stagnant, Satvara returned to God of War.
He realized the concept. Concept unrealized pog. True. Oh, so Satvara is the one who found this
Oh,
swimming
yeah.
through the
Satvara
levels.
was back, baby. Back with
Let's
another
fucking go. I
collection
love
of
that
incredible
glitch.
skips and glitches. After already breaking the AGNC with his multiple
I fucking
minute
pointed at my
saving
computer
Hyper 3
screen like
skip,
you guys can
he had
see what I'm
found 2
pointing
more
at. That
to
was so
further
stupid.
shorten the level.
Oh, in
The
full
first
caveman.
one was a way to skip Hydra 2. In a casual setting, defeating all of the harpies on the boat is required for the Hydra to pop through the wooden planks. Those same harpies could now be used for a skip to bypass the
I got
fight
copyrighted
entirely.
for this song.
If you stand on
Worth.
this chest,
Sorry
then
to
wait
hear that,
until a
that
harpy
sucks.
swoops down towards you, you can block its attack in midair, and it'll get stuck on the other side of the fence on the floor above you. With a precise grab, you can get Kratos onto the other side. This is still a very inconsistent skip even today, with your only form of aid being a very strict window of an audio cue of the harpy screaming as it's swooping towards
He
you.
really is like an
This
actual
also segues
genius with
perfectly
glitches.
into Satvara's next discovery. After some balancing beams and watching a cutscene,
Easy,
Kratos
Prime
must
Alex.
push a box to take cover from an incoming
Louis
volley
Submanic.
of arrows. Satvara had found a way around this too. Instead of pushing the
Louis Sub
box,
J.
it was possible to reach the ledge early with a standard high jump. Comparing a skip like this to some of Satvara's earlier findings, it's easy to assume that this skip was perhaps a bit overlooked and should have been found earlier. The ledge, however, is only reachable on the PS3 version of the game. Maybe a slight porting error made Kratos' jump a tiny bit higher, allowing him to grab the ledge and save 20-odd seconds or so. This was cool and all, but Satvara still had more up his
Is there some
sleeve.
RJ? Gotta appreciate anyone with this kind of dedication to something.
Satvara's next discovery
Yeah, I
was
always
quite
do.
unique,
I have such a
and
high
one that is
respect
still
for
seen
anyone that
used
finds
today.
glitches in
The
games like
strategy takes
this.
place in the Pandora's Guardian fight in Challenge of Hades. Casually, you have to rinse and repeat a process of stunning the boss, then hurling logs at it to remove
the
its
Prime
armor
Oleg.
bit by bit. Satvara had completely torn the fight to shreds. Here's how he did it. He first goes up to the crank that hurls the logs and pulls it. The first log will always miss, but what he uncovered was, if you pull the crank again at a very precise time in the cutscene, you can in fact hit the boss without doing the necessary stun locks. He does this a total of 3 times to remove all of the boss's armor, skipping ahead to the second phase in an instant. Pandora's Guardian is still wearing its chest piece, but this is merely a visual bug. Even 10 years later, this is still the fastest way of doing the fight. A small skip that saved around 15 seconds from skipping the fight in the
Is
Pandora's
Risa
Temple lobby
masturbator?
was discovered by Sadvara as well around this time. This skip nearly rivals the aforementioned sacrifice skip in terms of
Risa
difficulty.
practice.
The skip involves ledge grabbing a sword on the upper part of the door with a precise Poseidon's
Whoa,
Rage
whoa,
high
whoa.
jump.
Hold on, what? Have you seen the new any percent Elden Ring route? Distortion just got a world record at 1352. 1352? No, I haven't checked in the last couple of days. What the fuck happened? We're gonna have to check that out in a minute after this.
Then making your way around the lobby from above with whatever movement techniques you have available to you. The Blade of Artemis is not yet obtained by this point in the game, so Satvara opts to use Apollo's Offensive for further distance. This technique is commonly called Apollo's Long Jump. Not an easy skip by any means. Yet another discovery that, I feel, was ahead of its time.
Is it tier 1 lucky? And they give sub Samuel?
Satvara's ability to find new sequence breaks made it seem like he was a machine, spitting them out one by one. But you have to remember that, at the end of the day, Satvara is a human being, just like the rest of us. And an unfortunate event would strike a family member of his at the very end of 2012. Satvara's mother had suffered an unexpected life-altering stroke. Satvara slowly but surely lost interest in God of War as a result, and focused more on what was actually important, helping his mother recover. He never intended to leave the game so unexpectedly, but it's understandable that his motivation was simply not there anymore. Before disappearing from the scene, however, Satvara did drop one final bomb of a discovery, a finding that would fundamentally change the entire early game of God of War. This is the Port of Athens swimming glitch.
Yes, the swimming glitch is nuts!
In God of War, Kratos can swim on water surfaces from the beginning of the game, but diving underwater is only possible after you grab Poseidon's trident, roughly halfway through the game. Both Satvara and Acheon had experimented with skipping large sections of the game using what's known as the swimming glitch. In some cases, if you can manage to get Kratos pushed beneath the water surface using certain collision, entering free diving mode is possible before grabbing the trident. This was known to be possible in Challenge of Atlas, Challenge of Hades, and Cliffs of Madness, but weren't useful or faster by any means. However, on January 1st, 2013, Satvara would once again revolutionize the speedrunning route by finding a swimming glitch in the Port of Athens that saved, well, a fuck ton. Let's just put it that way. Upon reaching Athens for the first time, there's a short cutscene followed by the game creating a new checkpoint. If you're fast enough, you can grab the ledge next to the ladder leading back down into the ship's cabin as you become checkpointed. If you retry from the last checkpoint, the game lets Kratos free fall during the loading time. Since Kratos cannot activate any triggers while the game is loading, he will fall down past the loading zone all the way down to the ocean floor instead of ending up back inside the ship.
How did he find some shit like this?
As if he was on solid ground, and makes his way out of bounds to a small bridge where he can get pushed downwards to activate the free diving mode.
It's so complicated.
Kratos is able to elegantly swim
God
through the
damn.
air freely, to go wherever he pleases. From here on out, you can just touch the necessary loading triggers to advance the game to the next part. Port of Athens, Gates of Athens, Athens Town Square, and the Temple of the Oracle were all skipped by swimming past them. The swimming glitch can only be cancelled under certain conditions, most commonly being to touch a pool of water somewhere else in the game, which the sewers before the Desert of Lost Souls conveniently have. The Port of Athens swimming glitch is still one of the most major discoveries in the game, and is a testament to Satvara's ability to think outside of the box, even after all these years.
He's a tier 1 family man. I think that's always the most impressive part of the people that find the glitches, because it's not just about accidentally stumbling upon something easy. Like, I'll oftentimes find a way out of bounds of a game from time to time, but that's not useful. It's the ability to realize that there could be more to it. So you string together a lot of really abstract concepts to make something like that. So let's say Satvara accidentally discovered that you can fall through that ladder, end up under the boat on the floor with the water there. I mean, that's cool and all, but it's not useful. So then he decided to expand upon it by using another glitch to grab onto that dock, so then he's now swimming underneath the dock. Also still not useful. Then he pushes himself down in order to dive and get the swimming glitch where you can now just freely explore. Now it's useful. He had to string together so many different ideas, all of which no one had tried before. It's just so impressive to me. I love that shit, man. All by
2013
himself, too.
was the
No
last
one to
time
collaborate
we saw
with.
any new discoveries in God of War from ThaRixer. While God of War 1 is certainly ThaRixer's greatest body of work when it comes to sequence breaking,
Easy
he
tier
has
1
also
family,
found
tier 1
plenty of
desert,
notable
and tier 1
discoveries in
persistent,
Prince of Persia: The
Prime
Sands of
Ducky and
Time,
resub Wolf and Pleasant.
Castlevania: Lords of Shadow, another Metroid 2 remake, and Fast RMX, just to name a few. I spoke with ThaRixer while researching for this video, and he wanted me to be very clear about something. His 121 run from August 2007 was, as his YouTube description says, an experiment. He wanted to see what strategies he could discover in complete isolation, and he wanted to see what time he was able to achieve with the limited knowledge of his own discoveries. It just so happens that the knowledge he possessed was greater than any other player. In his own words, when I was doing the run in isolation, I didn't necessarily think I was breaking new ground, even with regen magic
Prime
or the
Brie,
rooftop
resub
skin. I thought there could have already
Ramen.
been something way under an hour or something, like how the game would look in 2008. That was a distinct possibility all throughout the run. I would think God of War is a popular game, selling millions of copies. Surely, there's a real speedrun community out there. And yeah, despite a logical train of thought, one of the only speedrun communities out there for God of War was the Ultimate God of War Union forum. ThaRixer's entrance was definitely explosive, but he felt it was necessary to hype up the run a little bit. I mean, after all, the forum users had no idea what was coming. I asked
Is there some
ThaRixer
rooster?
if there was still tension between himself and God Mode God after all these years. It seems to me that ThaRixer admires God Mode God's dedication as a leader to the God of War community and holds no grudges against the man,
No.
but does not speak to him, as the two don't share much in common
Oh.
outside of the game, and they're both fairly inactive. ThaRixer also thinks God Mode God is a troll, so there's that. ThaRixer did suggest that I reach out to God Mode God to get his side of the story and to see if he felt the same way. I messaged him on Game FAQs and was greeted with some pretty lengthy messages detailing his thoughts on the whole situation back then. From what I gathered, God Mode God does not discredit the work ThaRixer put into God of War 1, but on a more personal level, he claims there's no bad blood, as he, quote, doubt ThaRixer ever really cared. But God Mode God still seems to hold a grudge, and says that ThaRixer should not be let off the hook just because time has passed.
Wait, let
His
off the hook
entry
of
into the
what?
forum was rude, and he has no respect for ThaRixer.
Oh.
And that's where that stands as of now. If you wish to learn more about the
Wow.
history of God of War speedrunning and ThaRixer, Akion has a 2-part speedrun history series on YouTube that has a painfully low amount of views. So please
Wait, I didn't know
go show the
Akion
video
made a
some love.
speedrun history for
Multiple
this.
segments in this video were inspired thanks to his amazing coverage. Akion is also a glitch hunter and runner who I really want to shed a bit of light on as well. He has broken so
Hey, fuck
many
yeah, the
different
Akion
games,
shout
it's
out.
not
That's,
even
like I
funny.
said, that's what I was
But
talking
just
about
like
earlier.
ThaRixer, his greatest body of work is God of War 1. He has even written a glitch FAQ for the game that's currently over 103 pages. If ThaRixer didn't exist, the runner-up for most influential God of War 1 glitch hunter is without a doubt this guy. Akion and ThaRixer were the glitch hunting dynamic duo
Exit
back in
Prime,
the early
Shaboinked,
days.
Logan,
Together,
the resub
they
Joker,
collaborated
Juicy,
and
and the
bounced
tier 1
ideas between
Dookie.
each other to discover new strategies and techniques, usually through the use
Oh god, I remember this. Akion used to always leave comments on other Glitch Hunters videos, and I used to peruse them, and I'd always try and, like, well, steal it's the wrong word, try and use them and see if I could find something, but I was never as creative as they were when it came to glitch hunting. Like I said, he'd comment on, like, Findlestick. There was another guy named Viper who did a lot of Uncharted glitch hunting. Who was another big one in that scene? Fuck, I'm going back a long time. Son of a bitch. There's like 4 or 5 of them I used to always go to.
YouTube comment section. Akion was also invaluable in helping me learn the speedrun for God of War 1 in 2017, and provided additional help in the research for this video. Thank you for that. All this coverage would also not have been possible without the man himself. It's truly an honor to be able to cover such a rich story like his on my channel. When I asked ThaRixer what skips he's the most proud of, he had this to say. There are no particular skips that I'm more proud of over others, as each was found by engaging in and trusting the process. I learned to take whatever the game gave back to me, whether I liked it or not. Sequence breaking doesn't actually break the game. It merely uncovers the truth of what was always there. Looking back as an individual player, I think I could
so
have done
powerful.
better. Still, what's most important
That is like
I learned
actual
a great
anime
deal
Giga
about
Chad.
speedrunning and sequence breaking through God of War. as well as from my interactions with the community, especially Akion, who is one of the most skilled glitchers I've had the privilege of working with. In the end, all I can do is contribute what I can, when I can, and hope I inspire others to do even better. Satvara set a standard for what was possible in the world of glitching and sequence breaking, but he believes better is always possible. All it takes is the right player with the right mindset to elevate the game to the next level. But as it stands right now, Satvara's work in God of War 1 is definitely the most prolific.
Thanks, Risa
The
Fly
magnitude
Jaded.
of his impact extends all the way up until our modern year of 2022. If we closely analyze the current single segment world record by Traj, one can find that 25 out of a total 41 skips were initially found and weaponized by Satvara.
Ooh, that's pretty
You
good.
can safely say that 60% of the run is directly influenced.
Man, what the fuck? So the holy shit. The world record is still over an hour, which means that Satvara's experimental isolation Arkham Asylum run is still just barely slower than the current world record, like fucking 14 years later. No? Oh, okay. I was gonna say, that'd be nuts. This is 121 in-game time. This is 109. Oh, I see.
By a single individual, who all found the skips 10 or more years ago. 60% is already crazy enough, but had Satvara kept playing, who knows where that statistic would lie. A game that took almost 3 hours to complete in a speedy setting is now down to a third of that, and who knows how much further it could be pushed with its seemingly infinite potential. Satvara really exploited this game through and through, at a time when breaking games to this level of advancement was not very present online. His goal all along was to fundamentally change the way speedrunners ran and how sequence breakers broke, and I hope this video will spread awareness to that exact goal.
Thanks, you Blunder.
He was a
the
man
Prime
dead
Hollow.
set on playing outside of the parameters of the game, all to showcase the beauty that is God of War. It just so happens that in the process, he broke the game in half.
God, that was good.
Thanks for watching. If you like the content, please consider subscribing and supporting me on Patreon. Take care, and have a good one.
That was so fucking good.